Hello, and welcome to the Whole House Podcast, where you can find home, health, and family all in one place. Our team is comprised of moms from different upbringings and backgrounds, and we each have different passions and giftings and strengths. We each represent a different room, and we all make up the whole house. So grab a cup of coffee and join our overly caffeinated ladies here for the Whole House Podcast.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the Whole House. Today it is Amerey and Kathleen, and we are going to be talking about loving littles well. We're going to start out with a fun question at the beginning, like we have been. And today, because spring is just a few weeks away and it has been warming up where we are, the question is, what are you most looking forward to this spring? Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. The thing that I'm looking forward to most is being able to walk outside more, which we've had some good days to do that so far already, but I would love to have more days, and also digging around in my flower beds. And my flowers are already coming up, and so I'm super excited about that. Need to get all the dead leaves out of there.
The girls have been picking tons of flowers. Yeah, what do you want? What are you excited about, Glenna? Oh, okay. Yeah, and Dada.
She's excited about a dada.
Yes.
Her dada.
So I'm excited about just being able to have my windows open. I love having my windows open.
Me too.
And also just being able to be outside with my girls. Glenna's at the age where she's just going to be able to sit on a blanket and play with toys outside, which I love. And the other girl, Cecilia, is learning how to ride her bike.
Yes.
And Moira is just learning to explore. So I just love being outside with them. And this year we have more land than we've ever had before. So we have more places to run around, and I'm going to be able to plant some stuff. So I'm excited about exploring my yard. And
it's fun just watching little kids explore. Yeah. I love that. And they're finding acorns and walnuts, which get their hands really dirty, but they're so excited about those. Yeah, that's what they like to do at my house, is go around and gather all the nuts off the... Yeah.
Moira, the other day we played hide and seek outside yesterday evening. Thank you, Glenna. And she was hiding, but she would just go and put her face against a tree. And that's what she thought she was hiding. She literally just put her face against the tree. And
that reminds me of Audrey's, my oldest, when she and her friend Joanna used to play hide and seek when they were 4 and 5. And Joanna would say every time, just tell us where she was going to hide. And she always hid under the sandbox lid. And she would tell us, I'm going to be under the sandbox lid. See if you can find me.
Oh, another thing I'm excited about is something that Mom and I were just getting to experience with the girls a few minutes ago, is the birds that come back during the spring. I've always loved birds. I love bird watching.
Me too.
And now Cecilia and Moira are really getting into looking at all the birds outside. And today we saw our first robin outside.
Yes.
So springtime is coming.
We saw 2 robins and a ginormous blue jay.
Yes.
Which we see during the winter, but they don't usually come that close. And we got to see a cardinal.
Yes.
Which are also still here in the winter, but you don't usually see them as often unless you have a bird feeder right outside your window.
Yes. So let's go ahead and jump into our topic.
Okay.
It's loving littles well. And first I want to just kind of introduce this topic and say that we're talking in general, though I'm sure that you can apply some of these things to your older children, especially if you have children that have any kind of disabilities or are on the autism spectrum at all, or have been in foster or adoptive care.
Yes.
These things can apply, but mainly this podcast is we're focusing on ages birth to about 5 years old, and we're talking about the challenges and how you can overcome those things and those ages. Yes,
that's a very good point, because the overcoming thing is what we're talking about, because we're not coming to you like, oh my gosh, we have it all figured out, and you guys don't, and here's how you have to do it. Just follow these simple steps. And that's not what it is at all. And just remember also what Amerey was saying is those ages are emotional ages.
Yes.
So if your child is physically 8, but their emotional age is 4, then that's what we're talking about. Definitely applies to them. So.
Yeah. Okay, so our first point is be prepared to co-regulate with your child. So I'm going to let Kathleen start that one off.
Okay, so I think that one of the big myths in our culture today is that we have tiny adults.
Yes.
And I see a lot of parents, and I've been guilty of this myself. Like I said, we're not preaching from perfection. We're preaching from trying to overcome, just like you are. That they assume that their kids are going to act like adults. And when we say co-regulate, that doesn't mean that you're holding your child down. What that means is they don't necessarily recognize their body signals for thirst, hunger, tiredness. And if you're out and about running around all day and you notice that the child is getting cranky and tired, then that's not the time to tell them to pull it together and you stop at Starbucks and get a coffee for yourself.
Yes.
That's the time to help them be able to regulate, give them a snack, give them a drink, and get home as soon as you can so that they can rest. And co-regulating also happens at home. It's when they can't manage their emotions.
Yes.
They can't manage their tiredness, their hunger, their inability to know what they're feeling. Then you help them manage them, sometimes by asking them questions, or sometimes just by making that decision what they need to do next for them. I mean, you don't ask a 2-year-old, do you think you need a nap?
Yeah.
Well, I only had one who was like that, but the rest of them, it was, you need a nap.
Yes, exactly.
And one of mine, it was, you need a nap, and she fell down on the floor and cried and had a fit. And like my friend Selena used to say to her, thank you for punctuating the fact that you actually really need a nap.
Yes, exactly.
So that's what we mean by co-regulating. It's when the child can't regulate themselves, then we help them regulate.
Yes, and this, one of the things that I've done, now I started doing this with Cecilia when she was about 3.5, and she's about almost 4.5 now, so it's been a year, and I still have to remind her of this, and I'll still probably have to remind her of it for a long time. Though she realizes it sometimes is when she gets really, like lots of kids, she gets really cranky when she gets hungry, and she just but
she's
Cecilia's
hangry.
But Cecilia is a weeper, so she weeps. She just sits there and cries and cries, and so I've taught her this phrase to say to herself is, "I'm just hungry. I'll feel better soon." And so she tells that. So
I need to tell myself that pretty often. I'm just hungry. I'll feel better soon.
So we have to remind her to say that sometimes, and sometimes she remembers herself after a year of us reminding her, but most of the time she doesn't.
So, and that's a very good point, because co-regulating is teaching your child to use their words.
Yes.
Instead of just, they feel this very strong emotion and they're not sure what it is. And it's just like my granddaughter Lucy I was visiting my eldest daughter and their 5 little ones yesterday, and Lucy wanted to play with me the whole time.
Yeah.
So I was trying to talk to Audrey for a little bit, and Lucy was standing in the kitchen just yelling, "I can't wait!" And, it was kind of sad, and I wanted to laugh at the same time that I felt bad for her, but I was also proud of her because she was using some words.
Yes.
Like she was just saying, "I can't wait to play with Nini. I need to play with her
anymore."
Right. So And I did play with her a lot, so I just want you to know that. But that's just an example. You know, we are teaching them, we are co-regulating when we're teaching them the words to use. And it's okay to coach your child in the words to use. In fact, it's even better if you, like Amerey, pick a phrase for whatever it is. You know, I'm just hungry, I'll feel better after I eat. Whatever phrase you choose, and use that same phrase for that same situation.
Again and again.
Again and again.
Yeah.
And then you're forming that neural pathway in their brain, and when they get old enough to regulate a little bit more, then they'll make that connection. Right. But at least for now, they have some words to say when they feel that way.
Yeah. And there are other things that you have to teach them. That I've had to teach Cecilia, like when we're super tired, like getting ready for bed, and we have had a long day, and we've already eaten dinner, and we eat dinner pretty close to bedtime, so it's not like we eat dinner and then we go to bed 2 hours later, but so we're sitting on our bed reading our books, and she keeps asking me for a snack, even if it's like 10 minutes after we ate dinner. Mm-hmm. And so this is just a good example of I'm starting to teach her, like, hungry and tired feel the same sometimes.
Yes.
And you're tired, you're not hungry. So
I'm taking notes for myself right now.
So you'll feel better.
I don't need that chocolate ice cream. I'm just tired.
I know. You'll feel better when you go to sleep. You're not really hungry. Your body is really tired.
And you know, it's really funny about this, which is funny in an amazing way, is I remember my mother telling me that exact same thing when I was Cecilia's age. She would tell me that you're tired, you're not hungry. So that has definitely made an impression. So I must have told you guys that. And now you're telling your own children.
Right. So, go ahead.
But schedule also helps with that.
Yes.
Because when my kids were growing up, we had the same schedule every night.
Yeah.
And they knew that we were going to have a snack and we were going to read some books. And we were going to brush our teeth and we were going to go to bed.
Yeah. So, I forgot what I was going to say because I just checked on Glenn.
And she's she's smiling.
Yeah, she's smiling and happy. So, one of the things that you should learn from this point, is that in being prepared to co-regulate and to teach your child how to regulate, is knowing that your child, like Mom or Kathleen said, that we expect them to be little adults, that literally everything is brand new to them. So feelings are brand new to them. Everything is brand new. So they don't know what different feelings mean and what different feelings are.
And it's our job to teach them.
It's our job to teach them. And so along with that, I'm going to bring in this point is littles pick up on your attitude and behavior. So let's say that you wake up and you woke up on the wrong side of the bed automatically, and you're cranky, you're tired because you didn't get any sleep last night because of the baby, and or for whatever reason you stayed up late cleaning, and you get up and you're cranky and you're a little bit snippy to your kids, or they come in and say, "Good morning, Mommy," and they're all happy, and you're like, yeah, good morning. Like okay, I'll pick you up. And then, so you're having a bad day. I'm going to come back and say that again. You're having a bad day, but, and then you keep getting frustrated because now your kids are fussy and they are having a bad attitude.
Right.
And you're saying, and then you're telling yourself, I'm having a bad day because Cecilia won't stop crying, or because she's whining every time I tell her to do something. Mm-hmm. But you're snapping at her, and you keep telling, I'll use myself, I'm snapping at her, and I keep telling, one of the phrases I use a lot with Cecilia is change your attitude. Change your attitude. Why? Stop, try and have a more joyful attitude. But I'm sitting there and saying it to her like this. Change your attitude. Have a more joyful attitude. my goodness. Like, so that's like how I'm treating her, but in reality, she might have woken up with a, now sure, there are days where toddlers are just cranky for no reason.
Right.
But she might have woken up with a happy, smiley attitude, and your attitude is what shifted and changed hers.
Right, because they're going to mirror your attitude, and that's not 100%.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean if you all of a sudden switch and become joyful, that they're going to become joyful, but they're learning from you.
Yes.
Kids learn about attitudes and relationships and living and how the world works from us.
Yes.
Especially if they're at home with us all the time.
Yes.
Then you can't blame it on anybody else.
Yes. You can't.
You can't.
You can't say somebody at daycare made him cranky.
Right.
No, you made him cranky.
Right.
So, and so I would say that because they pick up on your behavior, be aware of your behavior and watch yourself and make sure that you aren't disciplining them or getting frustrated with them for how you are acting. One of my friends, when this podcast comes out, it'll be a few weeks ago, but one of my friends, Ashley friend, she posted a thing today about how she's learning to apologize to her kids because of how sometimes she treats them in frustrating situations. And I commented and I said that that's something that I am continually learning, is that sometimes I snap at Cecilia or get frustrated with Moira for acting some way or doing something that I have done in that very hour. Like not coming when, like they have something to show you and they're like, Mommy, come here. And you say, hold on, I can't, wait a minute.
Wait.
And then you call them because it's time for lunch and they don't come right away. And you're like, okay, now you're going to be disciplined because you didn't come for me.
Right.
When
We
I called
require
you.
that.
Yeah.
We're requiring that immediate obedience from them, but we're not giving them the same value and respect.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, I know there are a lot of bad things happening in the world, but there are one of the good things that are happening in families is that children are valued to a different degree now than they were. I remember when I was growing up, I had one family member that just, whenever we were children, we were treated like servants and nobodies, but as soon as we became an adult, the same relatives started talking to me like I was a human being, and I was so shocked because I didn't know when I made that transition. So I'm so glad that kids are valued and they're considered humans, and we need to remember that when we're considering them as valued, that we value them and respect them the way that we want to be valued and respected. Right. And that, I know that's difficult. I'm not saying we have it down pat. Yeah. In fact, Amerey's sitting here confessing, and I have plenty of stories myself to confess. But they are going to mirror our image. And one of the things that, when I'm doing the training for adoptive and foster class parents, I always tell the parents, you have to become the world's greatest actress. Yeah. Because there are a lot of times where you don't feel like loving this child. You don't feel kind. You don't feel all of those things. But you have to fake it until you make it. Yeah. Because that's where the kids are learning from. They're learning from you. They're learning from what you do, what you say, how you treat them. And how we treat them is how they're going to treat others.
Yes. So that's our next point, is goes obviously perfectly with this, is your job to teach them responses. And along with that, our sub point is make sure that your response matches what you are teaching. So if they call for you and they say, Mommy, come and look at this tower I made. If you want them to learn to say, yes, Mom, when you call for them, then you should say, okay, let me come right now and look at that tower you made.
Right.
Put down what the recipe you're looking at, or the chicken you're getting out to thaw, or the vacuum you're about to plug in, and walk back there and and teach them that you will come when they are called. Now, this is not to say that you shouldn't teach your child how to wait and for patience and teach them patience, but be kind in that way. Maybe say
yes.
Yes.
As soon as I put this in the oven,
Yes.
That's turning your no into a yes.
Not just a no. Yes.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're treating them with kindness, and make sure that you're responding to them the way that you want them to respond to you. Like I told Mom earlier, that I would call for Cecilia, and I'd be, yesterday, this is what my inner battle with myself was. I was like, Cecilia, come here right now. And then she would come and she would say, I was just reading a book. And I said, don't talk to me like that. And then I would tell her, oh, Cecilia, I'm so sorry that I snapped at you because Mommy had the bad attitude first. And then you were just doing what I was doing.
Right.
So teaching them.
And that the age, we're talking about younger ages, but, this obviously applies to older ages too, those things. So even when they're teenagers, we're always talking about teenagers getting bad attitudes, but what kind of attitudes do we have towards them,
yes, exactly.
right?
Oh my gosh, those teenagers. But
or
also,
those terrible twos.
Yes. And also, I know I've been talking about my toddlers, but trust me when I say that babies pick up on these things too. Like, if Glenna wakes up in the middle of the night and it's the third time she's woken up and I'm frustrated and I mumble stuff to her and I like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
I can't believe
for
that.
the third time. And then she gets more fussy instead of just resting. I mean, obviously there are tummy issues and things that this doesn't count for, but
exactly.
But then she gets more fussy and she's up. You can hear Doc McStuffins. Let's not play with that one. Glenna's playing with the stethoscope. But she gets more fussy and restless because I am being more fussy and restless instead of just picking her up and giving her a kiss and saying, oh, are you hungry again? Do you need to eat again? And then she feels more at peace because of the way that you're acting.
Because of the way you're responding.
And there are even studies, I'm sure Kathleen can tell you about them, that even children in the womb who respond differently to stress and joy. So I think that it's important to remember, and I'll let Kathleen tell you about those studies, but it's important to remember that this doesn't just apply to your 4-year-old or your 3-year-old. This can apply all the way from birth up to many, many ages.
Right. We talk more about this. There's a podcast has already been released. The 6 risk factors. That's a really good one to listen to, and we talk a lot about what happens in utero and how stress causes the cortisol levels of the mother to increase, and that cortisol goes across the placenta and goes to the baby. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you a little bit of story about that because Lori and I were recording that one, and her daughter Rebecca was hanging around with us in the library while we recorded, slithering around on the floor. But she,
like Rebecca.
Right, but it didn't look as if she were paying attention. She was just kind of goofing around. But she told her mother a couple weeks later when they were doing some science, she said, Mom, I'm going to make sure when I grow up and I get married and have a baby when I'm pregnant that I keep all the stress out of my life so it doesn't affect the baby. Like she was super really listening. I know.
Yes. Good job, Rebecca.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So be sure that your attitude is kind toward all of your children of all ages, and that just because you have a baby that won't, I know, you're tired, that won't stop crying, that you should not start getting snippy with them. Now, obviously, that's really hard. I'm not saying it's not hard.
We have failed many times.
But I'm just saying be aware of it. Okay. So now this is a good segue into our next point, which is know your child's developmental age, and this is important on many levels. You can look, if you don't know, like I went into child development. I've studied it. Kathleen has obviously studied it. Kathleen gonna move further away from the microphone
for a minute.
But no, if you don't know it naturally, then and look it up, and don't be ashamed of having to look up your child's developmental age. And this is important for a few reasons. One is so that you know that they are on their the right developmental track, that they are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. Sometimes you're surprised in seeing that your child is leaping and bounding ahead of everybody. But also, this is important, and this is what we're going to talk about. It's important to know what to expect out of them. And I'm not going to say we're not talking about expect out of them like motor skill wise, but we're talking mainly about emotionally and
right.
She's trying to look for me. Sorry, we're laughing at Glenna. Emotionally and physically. So like one of the points that Kathleen made was when you go out all day and it's your grocery store day and you're out and you're running errands and you're going to a ton of stores and your 2-year-old is in the back and starts getting fussy, you should know that your 2-year-old is going to get fussy. You should not be frustrated with the fact that they're getting fussy. Yet that should not surprise you. A surprising thing should be if they make it through the whole day without getting fussy. So you should know, because developmentally, a child is not like going to be okay with being in a car seat and then all day and then being dragged to things where they don't get to play or they don't get to do those kind of things.
They don't get to get out and move around. And when we have those all day errand running things, we stop and get ourselves a coffee and we're just like, I can't. That's kind of my routine. Go to one store, then go to Starbucks, and then go to the next store.
Yes.
And when you can't expect your child to be able to regulate if you can't even regulate yourself.
You can't regulate yourself, yeah. So something that I do and we do when we go out with the girls, because my mom goes out with me and the girls often, she is my partner, is that when we do stop at Starbucks and we get ourselves, or Dunkin' Donuts or wherever you stop, we're Starbucks people, and we get ourselves a coffee, is we do get something for the girls or the kids when we're with them. Or my sister, used to, I'm sure she still does it, she just doesn't live in Morgantown anymore. But when she would take her kids grocery shopping, she would let them each pick out a Lunchable, which they didn't get, like that's not my sister's typical meal for them. So they would get to pick out a Lunchable in the store, and then if it was warm outside, then they would go and they would sit outside of the store and like a picnic table or something, and they would get to eat their Lunchable. Or if it was cold, and she'd let them sit in the car without being buckled and eat their Lunchable. And that just helps them get recharged and re-energized, because you cannot expect developmentally your child to do those things. This also applies at home. Like when you've decided that you're going to do this chore where you're going to like either clean out a closet or rearrange the living room or do a bunch of laundry, and you're expecting your 1.5-year-old to play by themselves or be okay with not having your attention for an hour, then developmentally they're not going to be able to do that.
That's too much for them to handle.
So you're getting frustrated with them, but really it is your fault that you're getting frustrated. It's not their fault, because they can't even physically or mentally do that, and you are the one who is expecting too much out of your child. So that's why...
Ouch!
I know. So that's why it's really important to know your child's developmental age, to not get frustrated with them when they can't write a letter, when you're expecting them to write a letter, or when like a
single letter,
not a letter to their grandparents,
not a snail mail letter.
I know, that's what, the letter A. Or when you are frustrated that your 2-year-old can't sit in the playroom and play by herself anymore when she's already been in there for about 15 minutes, and looked at all the books and got out every single toy she has. Or like Glenna right now, who
I'm bouncing her.
We are having to entertain her, and she's 6 months old, and she just doesn't want to be in this room anymore. So, you have anything else you want to say, and I'll take her so you can say some more things about that.
Let me look at her notes here. We have some notes.
Yes.
Well, and I was just thinking about playing games with the girls. Like Moira is 2, and within a 15-minute period, we can play 4 different board games.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a sign of their attention span. And people, I do not like time outs.
Yeah.
I like time ins, which I talk about on another podcast, but sometimes people say to base those on their age. So if you think that a 2-year-old can sit still for 2 minutes, I don't think that's true.
I think you're wrong.
They just can't. So anyway,
This is where we were. We are looking over our notes.
yes. Pay attention to, okay, we did that one.
I think the next one is how often you tell them to wait. And that goes with everything
Yes.
that we've been talking about.
Pay attention to how many times you are telling them to wait. That goes along with trying to turn your no's into yeses. We have to pay attention to how many times we're telling a child no, because we're constantly telling them no. And think about how you feel when someone's telling you no. Let's say that you work somewhere and someone's telling you have all these great ideas. Hey, I think we should pitch this, or let's put together this program, and your boss is, no, that's a stupid idea, or no, I don't want to do that, or no, let's wait till next year. By the time you're finished with that particular meeting, then you're feeling terrible about your ideas and yourself. And a child can't separate their ideas from themselves at a young age. So when you're constantly telling them no or wait, or what the signal you're giving them is, you're not valuable. Your ideas are not important. What you're doing is not important to me. So you have to shift that and say, yes, as soon as I put this last dish in the dishwasher. Or if it's something you can just drop if you're reading a book, then just put the book down. Or if you're watching a show.
Or if you're on your phone.
On your phone, put your phone down.
Yes.
Or if you're just looking at something on Wayfair.
Yes.
True story. You can just walk away from the site and pick out that chair that you're not going to buy anyway later.
Yes. And this, I'll give an example of just from today is, you can hear Glenna. We're going to have to end because she needs a nail.
Yeah.
But I'll just use this last example, and then I'll let Kathleen close us off. Is today, Cecilia watched a show earlier where someone stole a diamond.
Yes.
And so she has this fake diamond that she's running around with, and she keeps trying to get Kathleen and I to chase her and take it from her. And I was in the middle of making lunch, and I kept telling her, you know what, Cecilia, you see me making lunch, wait. And then she ran in the kitchen, and she wasn't upset yet, but I just knew that if I told her to wait again, that she would, even if she didn't fall down on the floor and cry then she would probably go back in her room and get a bad attitude. And then when I called her out for lunch, she would come out with a bad attitude. So she came into the kitchen and she was like, Mommy, come and get this diamond from me. And I just ran chasing her down the hallway, even though I was about to put a grilled cheese on the skillet, and it was going to be the last one, and then I would be done with lunch. I just went ahead and went and played with her so that she felt like what she was doing was important, and that she was important to me, and that that lunch was not more important than her, because it's not. It wasn't more important. Her getting that grilled cheese was at that moment to her not more important than me chasing her and taking that fake blue diamond from her. So I'll say my last point, and then I'll let Kathleen take over. because she's holding the fuzzy baby. Is that my biggest point, I think, in all of this is that look at all of the things that are making you frustrated with your child, and instead of looking at what they're doing, look at yourself and look at how you're approaching them, what you're expecting out of them, and reevaluate yourself, not them. Because chances are your child is doing exactly what they are supposed to be doing, and you are the one who's treating them quote unquote poorly or expecting too much of them. So my child is about to eat Kathleen, so I'm going to take her, go put her to bed. And I will let Kathleen finish off.
Okay, I'll just wrap it up. So, some points. Just go back over some main points. When you're loving littles well, we're going to just admit that it's not easy. And that's why this was Amerey's idea to do this particular subject, and I think it's a great subject because it's obviously very hard to love littles well. And it takes a lot of what we say in Christian circles is die to yourself, which means do what you don't want to when you don't want to do it. Because you can't wait till you feel like loving your children before you love them. And when I say love, I'm not talking about the emotion love. I'm talking about the action. Being patient and kind and humble and respecting them and hardly noticing whenever they do something wrong. I'm just kind of paraphrasing what's in Corinthians about love. We can take that chapter, the love chapter, and apply it to our children. So loving littles well is co-regulating. It's remembering that they're mirroring you, that they're learning about life and the world from you, and the way that you respond to them is the way that they will respond to other people, especially later in their life, because the first 5 years of life are those formative years. That's why Amerey said we're talking about from birth to about 5. Those are the formative years. That's when they're finding out about themselves. And there's definitely a lot more formation, especially with the brain. But those first 5 years are extremely important. And we have to know our child's developmental age. It's not always the same as their physical age, especially if you've adopted or you're fostering or your child has had an early medical trauma. And if those apply to you, then I recommend you definitely go back and listen to the 6 risk factors podcast we did. And don't expect too much out of your children. Sometimes we expect less out of ourselves. We find ourselves saying to our children, well, you should know that I'm tired. Well, no, they shouldn't. And we should be paying more attention to what they need than what we need. And also pay attention to how many times you're telling them to wait. And we're talking about valuing them. Just the story that Amerey was saying about the blue diamond, which I ended up getting to play blue diamond with the kids and hiding it for them while Amerey was finishing up the lunch prep. So those are I'm just wrapping it up with those points. And thank you for joining us. And make sure you check out our other podcasts and leave a comment and like this podcast and share it with someone who needs to hear this too.
We're so glad you could join us here for the Whole House podcast. Please subscribe, and if you give us a review, we might pick our favorite and send you a prize. Please remember to like the Whole House Facebook page and follow us on Instagram at _whole_house. And please sign up with your email on our website, thewholehouse.org, to be notified when new things are happening here at the Whole House. Thanks so much for listening.